right, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 29th, 2014, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules and Lady Pitbull on UCY.TV. Good morning, Lady Pitbull.
Good morning. My God, I can't even believe it's like 2 more days left of July. Holy crap. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, I need to get my car inspected. I need to get an inspection, and oops, my tires are bald. So guess what? I had my mouth full of dental last month, and now I need new tires this month. It's always something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, and it's a never-ending thing of always something. It's terrible.
Very never-ending.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, hey, inside my mouth is worth more than my car is now.
Jeez. Man, that's
all
crazy.
Those stupid crowns.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I blame it on my dentist.
You bastard. No.
So, how cold is it there?
Let's see. It is 62 degrees and 60 degrees inside. So, sun's out, and it's supposed to thunderstorm big time today, later on. I don't know how it's going to get enough heat generated in the atmosphere to produce, like, big storms, but, I mean, I think the rain's coming.
It was down to 50 last night. They actually, I think they had predicted 47 as the low, and I don't know, I passed out early, and, it was hibernation mode, I think is what happened, because it was raining, it was cold, it was windy. I even started the fire last night in the wood-burning stove because it was so nippy, and they were saying 47.
Yeah, that's...
And that was it. That was the last thing I remember.
I think it got down to about that here, too. So, and I didn't stay up
at the end of July.
Isn't that crazy? What's up with that?
It's very crazy. I saw Bridget in chat last night saying that it was getting down to the 50s in Tennessee, and who else was there? They're getting this in Florida and down in the south too. This isn't just up here.
Wow,
I think it's another polar vortex.
Oh, gee, I thought it was like just to the Florida line, like just above the just on the Georgia-Florida line there.
Yeah, it wasn't all the way. It wasn't all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Like Texas looks like they were still going to be roasting hot. I think yesterday was 104, if I'm not mistaken, in some regions. And Zori said that they were baking, remember? When we talked to them last week?
Yeah, they've been... Now, a couple of days ago, there was... I think in Santa Cruz there was people killed by lightning. Somebody killed by lightning, and a bunch of other people got struck.
13 people got hit on the beach.
Yeah, and then I saw actual footage of a tornado in Sacramento. And that's very odd for California.
I gotta tell you though, over the last 2 years, there have been a few tornadoes in California. And my California friends, when it first happened, they're like, well, it happens every once in a while, but it's not common. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because you got the water there, right? The water acts as a deterrent. Yeah. It keeps the temperatures more stable. And typically, they don't touch off. The water disturbs whatever, and so do the mountains. So like Colorado getting a tornado is also whack jobby because the mountains and any hill country, usually that's why Kansas gets it so bad, and out through Missouri and whatever, that's all plains, all open, nothing to break the winds flow as it's starting to create the vortex. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, all very odd. And California has had a few now over the last few years. We just had one in New York a few weeks ago that hit over near JJ in Syracuse.
Wow. And then they had one, then they had one in Boston, too. And that's also by the water as well.
Connecticut, I thought I saw.
Mm-hmm. Just above Boston, I think, like 40 minutes outside of Boston. So, and that's crazy.
And it's on. Another thing, too, after the 13 were hit by lightning on the California beach, a few days before that, there were 2 Colorado hikers that I believe that got killed camping from lightning.
Oh, wow.
That was a few days before that.
Well, I think, thunderstorms in Colorado aren't that, not, that happens, but tornadoes is different, I think. Because of the mountains and stuff.
Yeah, it happens. You just don't see, I don't know, and like my dad said, who knows if this is really, more pronounced, or is it because we have instant access to everything that we're just more hyper vigilant and can see the news, but what? Once in a lifetime, someone gets hit by lightning, and within a week, we have 15 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a little odd. And I think your dad's right, though, on some levels. I was going to even mention that yesterday, because is it just because we're paying more attention to this stuff? Is the reason why it sounds so crazy? I don't know. Tornadoes and weird tornadoes have always happened, and people get struck by lightning all the time, but I don't know, is it just because we have, this World Wide Web thing, and we're able to, get news from everywhere around the planet, simultaneously, and I don't know, it's a good point that he brought up, for sure.
Yeah. So who knows, but, he, one of the things that I remember as a kid is we always had Walter Cronkite on.
Yeah.
And now didn't I find out, wasn't Walter Cronkite a part of one of the societies?
Dude,
I don't know, I'll need to look into that.
He used to be, because he's dead now, he used to be the voice of Moloch at the Bohemian Grove. Every single year. Yes. yeah.
No.
He would get on the.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's.
And of course, that's what he was known best for, was his voice, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he was also Moloch. Crazy. It's absolutely insane. These people are crazy. Oh my God. And my dad speaking of that, I'm going to kind of derail us a little bit, but speaking of Walter Cronkite.
I still need a cup.
Oh, alright, well let me tell this real quick story.
So keep going.
So, my dad he had, I don't know whatever happened to these damn films, these Super 8 films back in the 60s they used to use with no freaking sound. When I was born, my dad handcuffed himself to my mom's stretcher to see me being delivered, and before that happened, fathers were not allowed in the delivery room to see their children born, and my father sued Grace Hospital in Detroit and won, and subsequently after that, fathers were allowed in the delivery room, so it was like my dad was responsible for having that happen, and Walter Cronkite, it was on national news. I was on the front page of the Detroit News at the time, way back in 1966, and yeah, man, my dad had the Super 8 film of Walter Cronkite, and then the story, and, the picture of me, my mom, and my dad, when I was, just came out and everything, and, it was pretty interesting, so there's a little bit of weirdness there, I guess, in my history, anyway. That's as close as I got to Walter, as close as I ever wanted to get.
Well, you need to get your hands on all that.
Yeah, I don't know where any of it went.
You need to get your hands on all that.
When my dad moved out of the house that I grew up in, all of that stuff just seemed to go away. So I wish I could have kept track of it, but I might have even gotten just tossed in the damn garbage, for all I know.
Well, maybe online there's some references to it. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be. If that was a court decision, that became precedent.
Yes, exactly.
So there might be a court whatever you call them, a statute or, a lawsuit where your dad versus the hospital,
right?
Where then it became, part of, I don't even know what you would call that, giving dads equal rights. I mean, is it part of the rights bill? Was there something put in an amendment somewhere? All fathers have permission to be in the delivery room?
Well, I
do remember when I was a kid, they didn't do that.
Yeah, well, I think what happened was that, Grace Hospital started to do it, and then this other hospital, and then it just started to spread. I don't know if it was part of
capitalism.
Ah, yeah.
Capitalism.
The way it used to happen back in the day.
Well, why do they do it? I'm going to go over there and get my kid delivered. I'm not coming here.
Right, that's right. And that's what happened. I think it wasn't any, policy that was instilled or anything or implemented after that decision. I think it was just, the capitalism, the way it was supposed to work in the first place. Yeah, absolutely. So...
I actually just found a great coffee saying. It says, "How do you feel when there is no coffee?" It's on just a brown rectangle, and underneath it says "depresso."
That's funny. I like that one.
Or the other one is a little bracket that says, "All the coffee in Colombia could not make me a morning person."
That's a cute one too. Oh, I gotta thank all these wonderful, lovely people in the chat room, liking that story I just told. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. You need to find that. There's got to be a mention somewhere in a wiki or, you know what I mean? Especially a story like that where you have a tie to something in history. Someday maybe you'll have a Wikipedia. You want that stuff cited.
That's pretty cool, actually. Or
because the thing is, here's what pisses me off. Yeah, and they don't really give people Wikipedias. They're going to fight. Someone else has to create it for you. But I think we all should have one. And you know what? We might. So just keep it all in the back of your mind, because I might be able, if I get 10 more arms and 20 more hours a day, I might be able to fix that somehow. I was already working on that and then got dragged into 20 more directions. Someone's kind of on hold for now. We're going to try to do something about that. But there's all that stuff is history. Mm-hmm. That is a historical fact.
It is, and my sister...
Something that happened in history.
My sister was born, or my mom and dad took the first Lamaze class ever, and my sister was born under that Lamaze class 2 years later. So, with the first...
Wow.
Yeah, so, I don't know, it's pretty cool. I mean, my mom and dad were, into karate. My mom's, a black belt in Taekwondo. And studied under Shinku Shim, and he was a big deal. And he went to around here in Michigan to teach, and so I don't know. I got a lot of interesting stuff with my mom and dad.
Wow, yeah, your mom needs a wiki.
That's right, she does. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, black belt. That's something I always wanted.
Yeah, she used to teach kids and stuff. Taekwondo and everything. Pretty cool.
I used to be a big fan, and I still am, of Bruce Lee growing up. And that was because my dad used to love Bruce Lee movies, So Sunday we'd be sitting, it was either Star Trek or Bruce Lee or Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. My mom and dad were both into the karate, big time. And in fact, my dad's best friend studied under Bruce Lee. His name was Barry. He's still around, actually. Hell yeah, he was friends with Bruce. Because Barry lived over in California.
No way!
And Barry would come, and I remember this from when I was a kid. Barry would come here to Michigan, because this is where, I guess he went to school and stuff. And, my dad and him kind of grew up together. And, Barry would show my mom and dad stuff. So I remember those 3 breaking boards in our living room. You know what I mean? It just
no shit! Oh my god!
That's how I grew up, man. My mom busting boards in the living room.
That is my ultimate fucking dream is to be able to break a board with my hand. You don't even know. I have wanted to do that since I was probably 8 years old.
My mom and dad used to do that, and I was crawling around. I was still very young, like 3 years old, a toddler yet, and I just remember them hands, feet. I never saw anybody busted it with their head, but I mean, literally, Barry can't come.
No, they are too cool for head busting.
Yeah, that's right. But my mom and dad literally, kind of got Bruce Lee moves, almost straight from the stores, almost. 1 person away. I mean, That's pretty cool. And my mom, she's, in her 70s or whatever, she can still, if she got attacked in the parking lot or something, I feel sorry for you, dude. She can still do that stuff.
Oh!
Yeah.
You set her up? Set someone up to go, do a sneak attack. Someone that though, that isn't going to hurt her, but... And someone who's not a big baby, so when they get whomped by a 70-year-old, they're not going to cry about it.
That's funny, man.
And then secretly film that shit from behind the dumpster in the parking lot.
That's awesome.
It would be so great. That would be so great. As long as, your mom is in good health and isn't going to, get too scared and have issues or whatever, but that would be so great. You do the crab stuff, right? So
yeah.
Friends.
Yeah, that's true. And some of these guys love getting their asses beat at night. They the instructor's
They're
wife.
into that shit.
Yeah, the instructor's wife was there last night, and they were rolling around wrestling on the ground, and she whopped him one, and he just was laughing. He loved it. She bit him, I think, too.
Oh no! Well, see, Bruce Lee does not. That is not very zen.
No. No, that's cutthroat is really crap, is what that is. But, yeah, man, my mom and dad both love Bruce Lee, dude. I grew up with Bruce Lee. He's one of my heroes, obviously. I never really got into the karate. My sister did, because I never thought I could really do it, but doing the Krav, man, I can, I think I can.
Oh, you can do it. You just need to put your mind to it. I think anybody can. It just takes a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work and a lot of concentration, but
yeah.
I think any of us could do that. If we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad only got up to be a green belt, and then he stopped. So, my mom was higher than...
Well, he wimped out, though. It wasn't because he couldn't.
Well, I think he, had other
stuff going
on. Being a...
Right.
He was a judge at that time.
Here is, I think, the one we're going to use today. Today's to-dos. 1, get up. Well, I did that one. 2, make coffee. I did that one, too.
Hey.
3, drink coffee. So we are working on number 3 right now. And number 4, and this will be for after the show, make more coffee.
That's cute. You should make a coffee cup that says that.
Yeah.
That's
Actually,
good.
I can't. Two pots of coffee don't work for me, and I usually only have 2 cups. But it's just, you know what? The coffee theme goes well with the show, so I have fun with it.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of Bruce Lee... So, by the way, if anyone enjoys Bruce Lee as much as I do, and you haven't gone to YouTube and searched Bruce Lee, trust me, I've done that a couple evenings. There is some good shit out there.
Awesome.
Turn out all the lights.
Yep.
Fire it up to full screen. Put on the headphones and watch the moves. Because there were a couple man-on-man competitions, too, that they were doing, and a couple excerpts from some of the movies. I know some of the full movies are out there, too, that they were just amazing. The whole... And the ping pong, have you ever seen him on the clip play of ping pong? Is insane.
No, I've never seen that one. I love the footage of him.
Oh my god.
Sparring with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Those are awesome footage, that is. I love that Super 8 footage of that.
I don't if I've seen that one.
Really?
There's
Oh my
one
god.
of him playing ping pong. Oh, that's absolutely insane.
Maybe type in Bruce and Kareem, because Kareem just towers over him, you know? And Bruce is like, oh, wah, 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 you know? It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, Bruce is awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it goes along with the Godzilla movies in Star Trek somehow. Those are the three things that have shaped me. And then watching the Vietnam War on TV is narrated by Walter Cronkite.
Oh, right. That's right. Old Mr. Crusty Old Moloch himself.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, that's what we should call him from now on, Crusty Old Moloch.
Well, you know, that's sad, because I always liked Walter Cronkite, and I didn't know he was a jerk.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was doing jerky stuff in the background.
They all do. They have this nice goody-goody posterior, but, you know, scrape a couple of layers off that rotten-ass onion. Get to the reality of the situation. I'm sure Bruce was not.
The fact of the matter is... You're sure what?
I'm sure Bruce Lee was not like that. That's why he checked out early or whatever. Or was checked out.
Well, I think a lot of them, that's why they checked out early. Right, was checked out.
Yeah.
Of the Roach Motel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
If you give me just one more second.
Sure.
And I'm going to spell Pitbull right this time.
Oh.
It always tells me Pitbull is spelled wrong. No, I think it's spelled right. And you know what? It's somebody's nickname, so I can spell it however I want.
That's right, darn it. And I really don't give a rat's ass either. So you spell it however. It doesn't matter to me. Oh, man. I
found some exciting news last night. Oh, go ahead. Speaking of Bruce Lee, is anyone a fan of Bruce Campbell?
I don't even know who that is.
You don't?
No.
I'm a huge fan of Bruce Campbell.
Uh-oh.
Evil Dead? No?
No, not a clue.
I'm sure that Bruce Campbell is making a comeback because of The Walking Dead's popularity. But back when I was in college, there was a movie that came out called The Evil Dead. And it was made by a director named Sam Raimi. And the lead character in it was a young... I think they were NYU students, actually, just freshly graduated or maybe even working on their senior project, a young actor named Bruce Campbell. And they made this tongue-in-cheek horror movie that was actually pretty damn good on a paperclip and a stick of chewing gum budget, and had all these, you know, kind of freaky effects. And Bruce Campbell is just like sometimes tongue-in-cheek, slapstick, cheesy, but he's freaking great. And he's so cool. So anyway, they made this movie called Evil Dead. And it became an ultimate cult classic. Anyone who hasn't seen it, highly recommended on a late Friday night. Have a few beers, kick back. Even if you're like remotely into horror films, you'll enjoy this. Because, I mean, it's not really horror. And it is horror.
How come I've never seen that?
It's scary, but when you realize, Evil Dead it's called, and it's with Bruce Campbell. So anyway, and he's kind of cute back in those days. So I found out through my sister, because she went to school there, and she was a huge Sam Raimi fan, and she'd actually emailed his dad one of those early... maybe it was AOL or Prodigy. I think it was through Prodigy, the early internet stuff. Mm-hmm. She actually found Sam Raimi's dad, and they became pen pals.
Oh,
cute. She'd gone to the same school and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But anyway, so after the film did all right, and they, you know, got into other adult projects after graduating, they came back around and they decided to make a remake of the film. Now that they had money and they had a studio, a film house that was going to pick it up, a studio that would front them the cash and whatever. So they made Evil Dead 2. And Evil Dead 2 is pretty much the same story as Evil Dead 1, just that there was more financing behind it. It was still as cheesy. It still had the same ending where the vortex opens and they get sucked through the time warp. And then there is the third movie that came out. God, it was years after college. I still have my rocket sciences boyfriend from college, but it was quite a number of years after. And our friend who works for the cancer center, who was the meteorologist, the physicist, I don't know, he had so many freaking things he was going into. Because we were big Star Trek fans and Evil Dead fans, so we went to the opening of Army of Darkness, and that's what the third movie was called. I still have my Army of Darkness t-shirt, and as a matter of fact, it's packed in my bag. I usually wear it starting in Oktoberfest anytime I come down here, because it's got zombies coming out of the grave. And what was so great is that, like, in the first two movies, his hand gets possessed and starts attacking him. So, like, great. I mean, and you're gonna say, Jewel, you're really sick, but
I love this kind of movies.
The greatest part was when he took.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I do too, which is kind of bad because it desensitizes you. I mean, I know I'm desensitized to gore because I used to watch horror movies. But yeah, his hand gets possessed and starts attacking him, so he gets all freaked out and he grabs a chainsaw and hacks his own hand off. And what he does is he retrofits like all these weapons then on his stump. So the one is his boomstick, and that was a shock in a 12 gauge. And he had worked at I think it was supposed to be Kmart, but they called it S-Mart. So that's where he got his boomstick from. So anyway, he shows up in the beginning of this next movie. He gets sucked through this time warp at the end of the first two. And so he shows up like in the middle of the Middle Ages with his chainsaw slung over his back. What was the other one? He had a couple. Actually, he had the two retrofits for the stump. One was the chainsaw, and one was the boomstick. And they went over his stump. So anyway, there's the picture of him standing and being surrounded by all these knights on horses, and he's got the chainsaw attached to the end of his arm, and he's got the rifle stuck in his backpack. And it's him against all the Middle Ages. And that's how the movie freaking starts. So I gotta tell you, that movie was so great. But anyway, I see an announcement. It's the last thing I posted last night. Horror classic The Evil Dead coming to TV with star Bruce Campbell. I was like, no shit. And it even says Campbell is also co-writing the series with director-writer Sam Raimi and his brother Ivan. It's the original team that made all three of those movies back. They're going to turn it into a TV series.
Wow! Hey, anybody who doesn't have a TV, that might be worth it.
I know. Well, that's what I was going to say. I am not a TV fan. I don't watch it. And like since I've been here, I haven't watched one drop of television.
Good for you.
At home we usually do, if it's shitty out, we do an hour after dinner and we'll do a science show or whatever. Yes, Jimmy, shop smart, shop S-Smart. That's Bruce Campbell. But I got to tell you, I haven't been so excited over something on TV since I don't know when. Freaking Bruce Campbell and Evil Dead are like absolute classic Jewel, okay?
That's
so
awesome.
I am, and you can hear it in my voice. Like, I was so damn excited. Oh, thank you, Dan. Yeah, he posted it.
Yeah.
So
that's
I wanted
totally cool, man. I'm going to have to check that out now. It's cool because the other...
Oh, you have to.
The other movie, like that the dude used his stump for weapons was the Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon.
Oh, see, now I saw parts of that. I saw at the end when he got killed. When they did the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the Dragon movie.
Yeah,
he actually had a battle against somebody famous, actually. Was it Seagal? Steven Seagal? Or one of those guys. And they whooped Bruce Lee's ass, and he broke his wrist. I was like, oh, no!
No,
but I guess that really happened when they were filming. They went all out.
Yeah, it was Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, that's who
Yes.
it was. Thank you.
Chuck Norris, but my God, you've
Yeah, I saw that.
wait, you've never seen the full feature Enter the Dragon before?
Oh.
With all those scenes.
Maybe I'll have to get that.
Jules, are you kidding?
Okay.
Dude, I think I saw that. I think they took
No, I'm not.
it when it was out on freaking big screen. My mom and dad went to see that.
Hey, wait a minute.
You've seen it. Everybody.
Wait a minute.
Enter-
I noticed when I was up here the last time, I thought I saw the Bruce Lee box set on VHS in the entertainment center.
Oh my! No,
I think all my dad's old videos are up here, and I bet you anything it's here. But do I have a VCR that works anymore?
Dragon is like the
That sucks.
best one ever. Oh my God, that is so
I might have
good.
to do that one night.
I'm sure it's on YouTube too. It's got to be on YouTube.
It's dark.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sound turned up real loud.
Well, I've got
might
I've got the director's cut Enter the Dragon right here in my DVD collection. Man, are you kidding? Oh my God. I love it. I won't even spoil it, man, because it's just classic, and it's so. In essence, Bruce Lee was doing the stump weapon thing before Evil Dead. You know what I mean? The Bruce Campbell. So, that's what made me think that. I'm surprised I've never watched.
Who knows? Maybe there was a play on that. Even.
It had to have.
You don't know.
It absolutely had to have been. Those
guys were comedians too. You know what I mean? So they would reference cultural things that people would remember.
Sure.
Pop culture,
such as that, because it was so huge. But I remember loving.
The one thing. Okay.
I remember growing up and watching all those Vincent Price flicks. You know what I mean? On Saturday mornings, those were awesome to me. I always loved those things.
And Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
And of course, my other ultimate favorite that, these guys have reformed a few times in a few different combinations of what they originally were, but Mystery Science Theater 3000, MST3K.
Oh, that's always fun.
That was one of my all-time favorites. I remember that was like the summer of Bake that came out.
Well, along the same...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Along the same vein, along the same lines, like here in Detroit, in Ohio, there was a guy called the Ghoul, and he would always feature these really, really terrible B movies, and then he would, interrupt it, and it was kind of like the Ghoulardi or the Son of Svengoolie or any of those things, but the Ghoul was like my ultimate favorite, and that's how I got into like all these B movies, was because of the Ghoul. And I post stuff in the chat room all the time by the Ghoul, who beating up Froggy and stuff like that. I just love that stuff. He was awesome. So
I
it's
don't
one of my
remember
heroes too.
for him.
No, because you wouldn't, because it's only really he was only in Michigan and Ohio on these two states in their TV. So he was one of my heroes, though.
Hey, well, if there's anything in the real world to pay attention to, the Ebola team is now welcomed with rocks.
Oh, that's nice. I was hoping we were going to talk about the Ebola, because there's a shitload of news about it.
Yeah, there's a shitload, and I sent you some really scary shit yesterday afternoon, if you remember.
Did.
With that Tulamaria, or whatever the hell it was called. Tulamaria, we made it into a bioweapon back in the 60s, and we've been preparing for it to be used as a bioterror attack for a long time. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the one used...
And hey, by the way...
Sorry.
Yeah, the test kits that says specifically on it, bioterror.
Yeah. It was crazy. One used and $250 for one use to see if you have it or not. Crazy, man.
Yeah. And so much for some, obscure bacteria that lives up in the mountains in the shit of bunnies and freaking mice. You know what I mean? You got Bioterra test kits for $250 each for sale online right now to you today.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That seemed kind of odd.
It
really seemed odd.
Yes. Man. Oh, man. I don't know.
I see the Pigmine. I asked him to please see if he could find a story on the father and the daughter that got hit by the plane that landed on the beach, which I know was kind of horrible, but I was like, what a freak. I read that story yesterday off of that disaster feed. Well, look he found it. I knew it. CNN had it because an affiliate had grabbed it. He found it.
Cool.
So I need to figure out then how I'm going to be able to play clips today because this is just too many days without clips. Oh, and global violence unnerving Americans. Isn't that what they're trying to do?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm now seeing, these new Islamist terror threats and flying. Oh, aren't people afraid to fly? I saw one yesterday about that. I really think they're trying now, without saying you can't go anywhere, they're going to scare everybody into not going places, not traveling, not communicating.
There's an Ebola plane story that totally dovetails with that. I totally have it up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And the Ebola, I caught part of that, and, we read probably about a month ago when they were saying that the Ebola thing was under control, and I was like, bullshit. Bullshit. It's not from the worst epidemic ever in history of man to, we got it under control in a week. That does not happen, especially when there's no treatment or no antibiotics for Ebola. It just doesn't happen. So we had read that story from the Daily Sheeple then where there had been some reports of people who had been exposed to the Ebola who had the new and improved version that wasn't showing up with the original tests showing up in Italy. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
There were 21 people.
That's right.
And then shortly thereafter, and it was right after that, all of a sudden they said, oh no, everything's under control, and they stopped reporting numbers.
Yeah, and you never heard about what happened. Yeah, you never heard about what happened to the people in Italy after that. You just never heard about it again.
No, you didn't hear anything. And then there was a report a couple days later, maybe it was a week later, about a guy showing up in Spain that had Ebola symptoms, and so they were expecting, and he had come from Africa as well, and you never heard anything about that, so it got real quiet.
Yep.
But this shooting down of the Ukrainian airlines, and Jimmy and Lance touched on some interesting theories that have been floating around the interwebs, and Brandon usually records his show a few days early. So his show was recorded last Wednesday that aired last night, so that was pre these new theories about showing MH370, the first Malaysia airline that disappeared, and MH17, the second Malaysian airline that got shot down, how there were plain differences from all the pictures that were released after the fact, but the very first photo that came out of the downed plane actually had all of these things, like the fuselage and the window and all these things that were identical to the plane that disappeared. It looked like, right, they were saying it looked like before they came at it with Photoshop to make them look different.
Interesting.
But Brandon did mention that one fact that when it first came out last week, I was like, that's odd, that one of the Ukrainian rebel leaders on the ground had first come out, and then there were multiple reports, but he had first come out and said, something is not right here because all the bodies are decomposing. Decomposing. You're not decomposing coming out of the sky?
No, not at all. And that's cool that Brandon's talking about that, man, because, yeah, they may have just found the dang Malaysian plane. And I think
exactly. So now that's what the theory is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how weird was it? 2 Malaysian planes? But I'll tell you what. So this is twofold because now it was shot out of the sky over rebel country where commercial airlines shouldn't have been to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out, well, commercial airlines can fly wherever they want. The FAA doesn't tell them not to go there. So now everyone's afraid. So then we had, and JJ talked about it yesterday, about the flying over Gaza, and the Hamas were threatening to shoot planes down even though they don't have the capabilities. So then they suspended flights over Israel and into Israel because of all the unrest. So now let's strike fear into the hearts. Now Ebola. Oh, no. Now it's time to start talking about Ebola traveling on airplanes. A month ago, when it hadn't percolated far enough, was not the time.
That's right. Yes.
Remember? And now
yes.
But now's the time. After the plane crash. After the plane crash. Okay. Now we got it.
Yeah.
And
now all of a sudden
now
the
you see the
lids come
shit
off.
ramped up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they ripped the lid off. So if you want to go for it, go for it. I'm going to fill up my cup.
No problem.
If you got that story, you're going to.
Yeah, well, I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories about it. Not all about the plane, but the plane's one of them. I am curious, though, because what then if this is or could be the missing Malaysian airline, then what happened to all the people that were from the Netherlands? And that are, I mean, it's weird. I don't know. Maybe they're burying the relatives of the people, and you know what I mean.
Here's the thing: I believe that what came down were pieces and parts. I don't think they were whole people, because they're like, oh, there was an explosion, there was this, there was that, blah 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 blah. They very well could have taken all of those scientists off of 370 that they wanted their hands on. Right, you had all of the smart technology guys on that plane.
Yeah.
And this one had all the infectious disease researchers, didn't it?
Yes, it did. The AIDS people, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, AIDS and a whole bunch of other things. These are, infectious diseases. If you start really looking at the immune system and what DARPA is doing with vaccinations and mRNA and virus-like particles, and these people are pretty important.
Yes.
And if you remember, too, there's a very long list of virologists over the last few years who have turned up missing and dead.
Yep, the microbiologists, like, all over the place, suicided en masse.
Yes, suicided big time. So, you know what? They're getting ready to pull the plug. They want to get as many of those guys in the underground bunkers in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I think so. I think they've already
whether or not they want to come.
I think they've already.
Think that's what they did.
Yeah, I agree.
So listen. So they got the HIV guys off the plane out of Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
They got the smart home guys, which are the transcendence, transhumanism, brain implant, tie it with your wrist computer shit. I mean, those are the guys that are going to be able to help them do all that. We got all these people now in a room, and we took all the other nobodies, and we just stuffed them all on that plane, autopiloted it, because wait, haven't they made unmanned aerial airplanes, helicopters? I mean, they've been working on all that shit, and you got autopilot.
Yeah.
Right? You don't even need a flight crew. You don't need anything.
Well,
you just send that thing off into the sky, load with all these bodies of the people you didn't need, and then blow it up.
Yeah, that's what Lumper just said. That's exactly
Ukraine.
what.
Ukraine.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's what Lumper just said.
And now
people
blame it on Russia.
Yeah, blame it on Pootie. And Lumper just said dead people from dead people from plane A were in the cargo hold of plane B. Absolutely, you know what I mean? It's true.
That's why, I don't know if it was like all the bodies decomposing or just some, but that would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? Maybe it was just the bodies from MH370 that got stuffed in there to get rid of. No, why wouldn't they just dump them in the ocean? If they wanted to do that, they could have just dumped them out in the middle somewhere and let the fish all eat them.
True, but there would have been evidence somehow.
But then there wouldn't have been, yeah, I don't know. All postulation, but I gotta tell you, it is smelling like rotten friggin' fish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, hey, here, you run with your story. I just got to walk to the other side of the room and fill my cup up, and I'll be right back.
Take your time. You're all right. All right. So we're on the plane subject. So here we go. It says Ebola could easily arrive in the USA on board a plane, but wouldn't spread far, experts say. Oh, right. Yeah, you gotta trust the experts that wanted to keep it quiet for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, sure, let's trust them. Let's trust the CDC and the World Health Organization. Yeah, they're very trustworthy. Okay. The growing Ebola outbreak in West Africa serves as a grim reminder that deadly viruses are only a plane ride away from the USA, health experts say. The outbreak is the largest and deadliest on record, with more than 670 deaths and more than 1,200 infections in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And rising, guys. These numbers are rising by the minute. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, my ass, fatality rates for Ebola has been as high as 90% in past outbreaks, according to the World Health Organization. Another trustworthy venture there. The virus, which has an incubation period of only a few days to 3 weeks, could easily travel to the USA through infected travelers, says Michael Ostrom, director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota. A case very well could fly out of Africa, only to be detected in some distant country, said Ostrom, who served as an advisor to, oh boy, here we go, George W. Bush administration on bioterrorism.
I'm going to tell you what. That is coming up over and over again, is back from when I took that FEMA class, and they were talking about pandemics. It's all leading back to the George Bush days. Mm-hmm. That stuff that I found about tularemia, that disease that's showing up in Colorado and a woman in New Mexico now, that sounded a lot like the plague, or bubonic plague, or Ebola, though you weren't bleeding out of orifices, but it had all these crazy symptoms. That also, I found there was a training video, 5-user training video that you could buy that was back from the days of George Bush.
Bing, 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 bing.
I think this has been long on the plate, but again, they've had to ramp a lot of things up, and I think a lot of it was the financial markets. There was probably some bulls they had to reach there financially for being able to suck the system dry.
That's right. Absolutely. They did it in 29. They're doing the same shit again. Absolutely.
Yep. It's time to, take the last of the fixtures off the walls and turn on the lights. Actually, they're taking the lights, so.
Yeah, they're taking the lights, too. Yep, they're going to leave us without lights. That's what they're going to do. All right,
we're just going to have the bare wires hanging out of the wall.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. The CDC on Monday announced that it has sent an alert to healthcare providers in the USA to help them spot symptoms of the disease. Healthcare experts at the CDC have been working with African nations since the Ebola outbreak began in March. But officials are on alert now after news that a man with Ebola was able to board a plane and arrive in Lagos, the capital of Nigeria. He later died. Two Americans providing humanitarian assistance in West Africa had become infected with Ebola. Family members of one of them, Kent Brantley, a doctor, has been living with him in Africa, but returned to the USA before he began showing symptoms. To be careful, however, the family is on a 21-day fever watch, and in which they are being asked to monitor themselves for symptoms, says Stefan Moore, Deputy Director of the CDC's National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic infectious diseases. Oh, great! Here we go, people.
Here's the thing. Last week we looked at that story where in the U.S. they had found what they had called the pneumonic plague in that, I think it was a mouse, wasn't it? Or was it a squirrel or something in Colorado?
Yeah.
The pneumonic plague that they found.
It was a mouse.
And people had been exposed to that, and they weren't quarantining anything. And then let's flip the channel to, the bubonic plague in China, and they managed to quarantine an entire town of 30,000 people for a month.
Right.
The article had said that they had enough food for 30 days, and not one of those 30,000 people was being allowed to leave. And that was with bubonic plague, which is not as virulent as pneumonic plague, which they just had in Colorado, and no one really seemed to be too worried about people traveling freely.
Right.
How messed up is that? So now you're saying that it's potentially that these people could be exposed to Ebola, so they're going to, monitor themselves?
And a 21-day fever watch.
Yeah, 21-day fever watch. So what does that mean? You get to go to Tim Hortons and travel to Nana's and do all this other stuff, and then if you get a fever, then you stop?
Right.
That isn't how Ebola works.
That's right. Absolutely.
And you should be like in a CDC center, especially if it's such an infectious disease that there is no cure. I am not for FEMA camps or anything, but if you are the Typhoid Mary, and I'm telling you, if you guys ever read The Stand by Stephen King, 1978 or 79, you would know what I'm talking about. If you are the Typhoid Mary, and you have some disease that has no cure, that's going to kill 90% of the people that you come in contact with, I'm sorry, you were unlucky. You need to be put into quarantine in a government facility.
Absolutely.
Or something.
Absolutely.
And you're going to die, so don't give it to everybody else. Be fair about that. And maybe there's somebody good in there who might be able to come up with a cure. Or maybe they'll draw your blood and they'll weaponize it. But you cannot be the Typhoid Mary that's responsible for killing everybody.
Absolutely.
Or go sit on a hillside somewhere all by yourself, but you can't. You cannot be traveling around. So I don't know who these people are, and I really hope that they have enough sense in their head if they aren't being told by the authorities that they got to be quarantined and they're just on a fever watch, that they're smart enough to know to be wearing some sort of face mask and to not be going anywhere, because that really gets me upset.
Yeah, it should. It absolutely should be getting everybody upset. I guess the guy, I heard, they didn't say this in this article, so I hate when the freaking press does that. They cut some little tidbits out of articles and then don't report it in other articles, but apparently the guy that went to Nigeria on the plane was planning to come here to visit his family. So, but he died before he was able to do that. But conveniently, they did not say that here in the USA Today article that I'm reading out of. So,
well, there was a story too back when this all first started about a Canadian man who had not tested positive for the original test, just like those ones that showed up in Italy, and then tested positive once he came back,
right,
and ended up in the hospital. And then I read that he recovered.
Yeah,
wow,
what's
he
up
must
with
be
that?
one lucky bastard if the mortality rate is 90%.
Yeah.
And again, if you recovered from something that kills 90% of people, shouldn't you be going to a lab facility for them to draw blood to see why you're immune?
You're damn right.
Wouldn't that be a good way to figure out maybe how to come up with something to combat this?
Maybe they don't want to combat it.
So.
Maybe they just don't want to.
Maybe that's why HIV researchers got shuttled off of a plane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those guys all work with immunity and the immune system. They definitely, anyone who is into any type of immune biology should be very cautious right now.
That's right.
Immunobiology.
Immunobiology, yeah.
Because they're not going to like you you will be able to call them out as to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or help the peons.
Yes, like sounding the alarm. Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. Want me to keep going?
Keep going. Yeah, hey, I want to put a call out there. I dropped Jimmy a message, but I guess he's not around now. I want somebody with Skype to message me and come in on this call so I can play some of these clips, because I'm starting to get very frustrated. There are too many, and we need to do some of these today.
Yeah, big time.
Somebody, anybody who is a host or not a host, if you got, oh my God.
What?
I need to drop this in chat. If you got Skype, I need you to call in so you can play clips. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and troubleshoot on air for 20 minutes and make you listen.
That's funny.
But anyway, all right, go for it.
Okay, it says, yet, while Ebola is a fearsome disease, the virus, quote, would not pose a major public health risk, unquote, in the USA, this Olstrom says. Ulsterholm, I think that's what it says, Ulsterholm. That's because people need to be in immediate contact to spread the virus, Ulsterholm says. Ebola is actually much harder to spread than respiratory infections such as influenza or measles. Those viruses pose a much greater threat on a plane or any confined space, says Ulsterholm. Who notes that people cannot spread Ebola virus simply by sneezing or coughing. Ebola can only be spread by people with active symptoms, Monroe said. No Ebola cases have been reported in the United States, and the likelihood of this outbreak spreading outside of West Africa is very low, says Monroe. Who says that the CDC has sent 12 experts to Africa to help with the crisis. While it's possible that someone could be infected with Ebola in Africa while boarding a plane to the USA, it is very unlikely that it would spread to other passengers. Yeah, right. If you believe that.
Yeah, don't panic, people. Don't panic. It's only got a 90% kill rate.
Right.
But you know what? You can have sex with the person and you won't get it.
Right.
What was that other one that they...
Oh, my God,
that they were saying, nah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Remember what that was? It was, I can't, there's so many freaking diseases
so many of them.
now.
Was it MERS?
Yes,
SARS?
I can't remember.
MERS.
Jeez.
I can't either. There were too many of them.
I know. Like the ones coming in from the West Indies down there in the Caribbean, that respiratory one. I can't remember what that's called now. It seems like they're all being released.
Marlsberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Jeez.
All these crazy names. The Chichamauga, that was the newest one.
Yeah.
Mosquito airborne. And now that half the mosquitoes on the planet are Bill Gates GMO mosquitoes that they can load with their freaking toxic payloads.
Exactly.
Release.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding. I think you just hit the nail on the head, Jules.
Yeah.
Loading all these animals.
You know, they released them in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They released them in Australia, and that is 100%. That was publicly announced to everybody, and they loaded them up with the malaria vaccine.
Yep.
So, because a lot of the livestock were ending up with malaria and stuff, so they genetically modified these mosquitoes, and they went in, and also when they bred with, or maybe they didn't breed at all. They did some wacky stuff to try and get rid of the malaria epidemic that was going on down there. And then the Caribbean, they wanted to release them in the Key West, and people flipped out, so they waited a year or two. And then just these mysterious pterodactyl-sized mosquitoes blew in on a hurricane from the Caribbean, if you remember.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Oh, what? They ate all the indigenous eggs?
Right.
Well, we know all about them. They don't carry disease, and they don't do this, and they don't do that, but they can stab you through your clothes.
Yeah, and they can go through fish skin.
Yeah, they eat fish.
Yeah.
They stab you through your clothes, and it feels like someone stabbing you with a knife. That was the description.
Yeah, man.
Like, oh, my God.
Can't even imagine that.
And then the crazy ants, remember those?
Yeah.
The ants that eat all of the fire ants, and what else do they eat? Electronics.
Oh my God, that's right.
Sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sure. We're not quite sure where they came from.
Right. Oh my God, why would they eat electronics? I mean, unless it wasn't some crazy, like, Franken-ant.
Well, I was asking my dad about that the other day. I'm like, is it just me? Or have we not had ants before that eat electronics, right? There aren't bugs that typically go in and eat non-organic material, right?
Right.
Not just me, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
what
hey,
the hell? It's the same shit with the Plum Island and the Lyme disease given to the ticks, and then them setting it off into the ether, you know, releasing it to the public.
Well, I told you that I ran across the FOIA document that it talked about Plum Island experiments putting Lyme disease into mosquitoes even before that, before they get into the ticks.
Yeah, yeah.
And my personal experience being up at Thousand Islands at that same time, there were millions. The second the sun started to go down, you got swarmed by millions of mosquitoes.
Ugh.
And then my mom getting sick right after that, where she was crippled. They told her she had Lyme disease. They never found a tick. I think she got attacked by one of those Plum Island freaking Lyme disease mosquitoes.
Yeah, man, because you guys are right there.
I think that's where she got it from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I'm telling you, it was right there. I found the FOIA document that had said that they had released them in the Thousand Islands right when we were there. I mean, not like literally the day, but in that, those years that we were there, I was like 14, so it was probably in the early 80s. That's when it happened.
Absolutely. You got proof. I mean, sure. That's proof right there.
At least personal proof. For me,
Sure.
it proves to me that they were screwing around with it. But mosquitoes are just perfect payload, too.
Oh, heck
I mean,
yeah.
they can fly, go anywhere. They're tiny. All they got to do now is retrofit them with freaking HD camera lenses.
Sure. Absolutely.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
They've been working with remotely controlling cockroaches for a long time. How hard is it to be to remotely control a mosquito?
Especially if they're the freaking size of a B-52 bomber.
Well, right. Maybe that's why they had to make them a little bigger.
Yeah, yep.
So they could put the little HD cameras with super glue on their back.
Mm-hmm. Payload. Bigger payload, bigger mosquito. Yeah. Oh, my.
All right, go ahead.
It's crazy. Everything's crazy. Let's see. So these docs are starting to say, oh, you can't really spread it that far, so it's not that bad. It says Ebola does spread readily through bodily fluids such as blood and saliva, Ulsterholm says. On a plane, a sick person could potentially contaminate the bathroom, or if he or she vomits or has diarrhea. Come on. That's just a load of bullcrap. Stephen Moore, an epidemiologist at the Mailman School of Public Health at Columbia University, says the issue of how Ebola spreads is complex. Sweat and saliva carry much lower levels of the Ebola virus than blood and stool, so the virus spreads less readily through those fluids. I don't think we've seen actual cases passed through contact with sweat or saliva, Moore says. There may someday be a strain that's more capable of doing that, but so far it's more theoretical than actual. Yeah, right. Like, if it starts really, spreading through the population, most of the time, these damn viruses end up mutating in some way so that it does spread through, you know what I mean? Through that, and this is just me saying this, not the article. But I mean, if the virus spreads, it most likely mutates. It's somewhere down the road. So that's usually what happens with these.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are if you remember correctly, with the bird flu, and then we had the swine flu, and then whatever the hell flu we had, and then they came out and they're like, oh, never before seen. It's got somehow swine flu and bird flu and traditional flu all mixed up. we've never seen any of these all together.
They've mutated. You know, that's what they.
Yes, they've mutated. We had chickens having sex with pigs. Oh my God! You know, I don't know.
It's crazy.
To me, I think there's some really whacked out stuff going on in the background, and I mean, now that we have all that proof, if anyone hasn't seen any of it, I of course got derailed again, but I really started to go down the path again, looking at some of these synthetic adjuvants that they are creating. They're even more than synthetic adjuvants. They're like biological synthetic hybrid adjuvants that are using your own RNA and DNA against you. But those mRNA vaccines that DARPA's been working on, and those virus-like particles, the VLPs, there are some really good research articles below the Before the First Cup chat room, ucy.tv/B is in boy, or before, T is in the, F is in first, and C is in cup. BTFC down below. There's some good stories there, and something I discovered, and I think I might have put it into one of the comments of those stories, is, hey, those virus-like particles that have been patented by the pharmaceutical company as their own property, you know, to create particles that look like viruses that then they can put their poisonous payload into and inject into your kid's body. They're using that already on the Gardasil vaccine, and they're putting it into our kids.
Yes.
Now, like I said, I'm going to say it again, don't be version 1.0.
That's right.
There's a lot of crazy stuff that's been happening with that vaccination as well.
That's right. Oh, man.
Kids at 13 going into menopause. And was the other one, there was that whole group of girls here in Rochester, outside of Rochester, that all ended up with severe cases of narcolepsy. They couldn't stay awake, randomly falling asleep, just boop. You know, and they couldn't explain that. They're like, well, we think it might be some sort of chemical in the environment. Oh, really? But they all got that shot, like, those 2 months before school. And then coming out and recommending that boys need to all get it, too.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I went after my daughter's doctor about that. I was like, who? She's like, well, it's going to prevent them from getting anal cancer.
Bull crap!
Anal cancer?
The only thing that's
how is this going to stop
to get
9-year-old boys from getting anal cancer?
Right. The only thing that's going to stop boys from getting anal cancer is stop raping them. Maybe that might help. You freaking perverts! It just makes me really angry. Gardasil's for like the girls. It's for like, but what it is, it's a sterilization vaccine. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I don't know. And even the doctor arguing with me that no, there haven't been any adverse side effects that would like make her proceed with caution. I'm like, aren't you reading the medical journals? I mean, that's like me having the discussion with my dentist who feigns freaking ignorance about radiation being cumulative.
And fluoride.
I just can't stand this shit. Yeah, and oh my God, the freaking fluoride arguments. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. Anyone who thinks that a doctor, and I'm not saying all doctors, there are some good doctors out there, but most of them are so full of fucking shit. They know that this stuff isn't good for you, and they are playing along with Dr. Pingala.
Because they're getting paid by the pharmaceutical companies to do so.
And you know what? Now with Obamacare, none of it's illegal.
Right. It just
kickbacks are full.
Yes.
Now.
It's all been normalized now.
Kind of like, you know, insider trading for Congress, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. They've cornered the entire medical establishment with this blanket. It's sick.
We are the R&D now.
those corporations don't need to spend millions of dollars every year for their R&D budget like they've had to do in the past, and then jump through hoops to get it passed by the FDA once they've proven all the research that it's good and blah, blah, blah. They used to have to go through a very long, involved, expensive process.
Mm-hmm.
This is now the carrot. They don't have to anymore.
Yeah, because...
They don't have to anymore.
Yeah, they just use...
We are the R&D, and we are free, and they are databasing all of our data, correlating it with everything you buy and everything you do and everything you go, and then they're probably selling monthly subscriptions as a service to these fucking corporations. So instead of spending, oh, look, your bottom line's gotten so much better now, profits are better, so all those congressmen that are invested in your company are making even more profits. Look at everybody wins.
That's right.
Think about it. Instead of spending $10 million a year on your R&D budget, now it's just $19.95 a month to subscribe to the database.
That's right.
I'm telling you, I got their number. I understand enough what they're doing on the back end for this databasing correlation that I got their number. That's exactly what they're doing. Hey, Maddie says he's going to call in. I can't answer this. But I don't know if his Skype is set up. Can you?
I don't know.
I see him ringing.
Oh, I don't see him ringing at all.
Oh, maybe he's calling me.
I think he's calling you, yeah.
Maddie, you know what? You got it. Let's hang up. Because you need to call Lady Pitbull. Do you have him as a contact? If not, I will.
I think I do. I do.
I can send him to you.
He's right there.
Okay.
Maybe I could just add him in.
So, all right.
Here, I'm going to see.
Yeah, add him to the call.
Okay. Oh, I like his little picture. Okay, it's Ringy Dingy. Ringy Dingy. Hey, I think we got him. Maddie?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Awesome. It's good to hear your voice.
Good.
You guys are doing great, as usual.
Yeah, you've only called in a couple times.
Yep. It's usually enjoyable to listen to you ladies in the morning, so I'm often listening, but surely happy to call in. Sound okay?
You sound awesome.
Right on. Yeah, if you guys need any help
you
playing
sound
clips
great.
or whatnot, that would be not a problem, but
Fantastic.
certainly enjoying the convo this morning.
Yay. Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Well,
thank you guys for being here.
here's something I wanted to actually bring up to Maddie in chat yesterday, but now we can do it in person on air.
Even better.
A friend of mine, yes, even better. I dropped that RSOE emergency, end of the world disasters all on one page to you guys in chat yesterday afternoon. I don't know if you remember. I don't think I did it during the show, but I did it later. And down at the bottom, there is a whole list of supervolcanoes, and they are rated from the most dangerous, I think is a category 8, down through the 7s. It shows what country they're located in, if they're in the U.S., what state. It also lists when the last big eruption was. Most of them are, 55 million years ago. Some are a little more recent, a few 100,000 years ago. But then it also tells you, when the last earthquake was, because, that's kind of a sign that they might be waking up. Well, Maddie, I wanted to know, I did not know about this until probably about a year or so ago, but did you know that there is a very large caldera down near you? Actually, there's a few of them.
Would that be at the Mammoth Lakes area? By Mammoth?
There's Long Valley in southern Cali, right there.
Okay.
I just saw the other day there are 3 new supervolcanoes that they found up in Nevada. And then I guess in New Mexico there's a whole bunch.
So that means they're active, or are they?
The one in Long Valley I've been watching since 2011, and that has been having pretty frequent earthquake activity. Not big ones, 1s or 2s, but there's definitely some movement in there. But I didn't know, I mean, because a lot of my friends that even live in California never knew that there was a caldera down there. You know, everyone looks at Yellowstone, but they don't realize that they're actually all over the place.
Yeah, things must be changing as well, too. I was not familiar of all of those locations, I must say. That's pretty interesting. More stuff to be watched. But,
I know, and you know, I don't want you to worry or anything. I'm just thinking, as someone who is situationally aware, I really wanted you to be aware of that fact.
You can just call me that Mad Magazine guy, Alfred E. Newman. What me worry?
That's funny.
I'm not worried about anything, to be honest with you. Too full. But, yeah.
How's the weather down there? Is it
good,
like normal for you guys down there, or?
Well, it's hard to say what is normal nowadays, but yeah, it's fairly seasonal in that we're getting just not too hot of temperatures up here in the Tahoe area. It's not too hot, and it has been getting hot down the hill, I do believe. Down in the lower elevations, it's been getting in the hundreds, getting up there and whatnot, which it has been, I suppose, at many locations in the U.S. at this point, but weather's pretty good. Got some clouds. You know, I just keep watching the... I'm always shocked. I'm like a broken record. I just keep watching off the coast and hearing different people's perspective on what they think is going on out there, but I see storms that are being blocked consistently. How that's happening or who is generating and who's blocking, I don't really know, but you know, when it comes to the drought situation, I'm having to bring that up, as I have been for a couple years. I don't see too much changing in that perspective, although it's not until recently that I'm hearing many people speak about the possibility that it could have something to do with Fukushima, which I think is just beyond obvious considering the fact that they were doing that after Chernobyl, and they have obviously the technology to do so. So enough about that. I've said it enough times. It's the same thing, you know. And yeah, we're probably all getting radiation. Who knows who's getting it the most? Probably who's ever getting the rain. But hey, what are we going to do? Just keep on going, pretty much. Keep on living. Be like water, like Jimmy was saying, you know.
Yeah.
Did you see off the coast of California? Hold on one second. I'm going to get to my Fukushima facts page. Some of that, like, there's a massive amount of that Fukushima debris that's just a few miles off the coast now. Did you see that? They actually got pictures of it from an aerial. I don't know if it was a drone or plane, but it is this huge mass of plastic and ropes and whatever. They found a rope, radioactive rope off the coast of California, which caused them to go out there. Oh, it was Any News yesterday. Researchers, radioactive materials detected off of California, levels spiked to 400% normal. Crews then discover island of tsunami debris. Never seen so much garbage in the ocean before. A reporter on television said, disturbing new images from the Pacific, looks like islands of plastic 1,000 miles off the coast, 7 tons worth and 80 feet long, can walk on it as if it were land.
Well, good. We found the plastic island that we've been looking for a while, so at least we don't have to worry about that anymore.
My God.
I mean, that's just
it's all
crazy.
Radioactive. How nice.
Wow.
They had readings just, within a week, basically, high-level readings from Fukushima, so this is just coming full circle to be getting the debris, I guess, and more to come, obviously, for...
Well, guys, remember last week when Zori was tasting metal in her mouth?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I take that all
Yes,
pretty seriously when someone says that.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
all I know is after it happened here, I had mentioned to my husband that I was tasting metal, and I didn't know that was a symptom of anything at the time. And then a couple days later, he says to me, I've been tasting it too. And then we found out, oh no, you know what? When you get exposed to large amounts of radiation, you sometimes taste metal.
because there's all kinds of different diseases and things that can cause you to taste metal as well. Well, I got to tell you, I don't taste metal now, and I never tasted metal before, and I haven't tasted it after. But it was about a week after that all touched off and all the meltdowns happened that we were tasting, and it was about 2 days, and my tongue felt like it had been coated with something, and I could not get it off. I couldn't brush it off, couldn't wipe it off. It was like this, like almost like wax or something.
Ew.
You know, if you'd gotten something with a coating like that in your mouth, and it was all stuck to my tongue.
My goodness, that's just
Yeah,
heinously
it's
horrible.
It is nasty, and I believe it. And
But-
you've always tasted plastic, you've said before, so you're, probably
Yes,
sensitive
as
to
a kid.
chemicals and stuff. And you're just one of the people who are sensitive enough to have noticed it. And I do believe that the time frame works. So it's
Where you at, Maddie?
it's Lake Tahoe area,
Oh,
South
okay.
Lake Tahoe,
Okay.
California.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, we're
Actually, Maddie, that... Sorry.
Oh no, go
There
ahead.
was one other thing I wanted to ask you about Tahoe. When this whole California drought melee started, I had a few discussions with a few friends just in regards to like different solutions that maybe they were ignoring. We had that NSA data center, right, with millions of gallons a day sitting there in Utah, yet we can't plant crops in California because we don't have any water. And one of my friends were like, well, why don't they tap some of that water out of Lake Tahoe? And I was like, that's actually a good idea. Like, I don't know why they didn't think of that. Has anyone ever suggested that? Because my one friend said, oh, no, Tahoe, they're very protective of their water there. Have you seen or heard anything about that? Have there been any battles over the Tahoe water being right there at the border of California? Anything like that?
They are very protective of it. There's associations which are basically overprotective and very similar to other government agencies which act like they're doing positive work for things and end up creating more bureaucracy and problems for locals. They're known as the Tahoe Regional Planning, something like that, TRPA. And they make people do all kinds of stuff so that rainwater doesn't wash dirt into the lake. They're real worried about lake clarity and stuff like that. I do not know too much about... They're very protective, so I don't think that that's something that is an option, although the river... I'm pretty sure that Reno gets water from Truckee River that runs out of the lake. I don't know. That just shows how much I don't know about the geography, but pretty sure that's who gets water flowing in that direction, and there's other reservoirs from the rivers that come out of the lake. But again, I'm not real knowledgeable about that. I don't think that that is an option, although I have a suspicion that, I'll just throw it out there. I don't care. Like I said, it only makes sense to me that if there is any underground stuff going on, that Tahoe is going to be a clean water source for that underground water system. Although there would be probably underground water that they could tap into, but based on a couple stories that maybe there's let's say, the possibility that there could be connection from Lake Tahoe to the ocean, similar to the fact there are underground tunnels and stuff like that. That does seem like a possibility to me. So as far as it being a water source, I could see that being a water source that we don't know about. But
well, I remember there were stories about the underground ocean, and there were
Not
actually
really.
submarines and stuff that could get down in there.
And as I think I may have mentioned before that, oh yeah, you did fade out for a second. But there is a Hawthorne Naval Training Base down in Nevada, and there ain't no ocean there. So, I don't know. There's a lot of other military storage, but it does make you wonder, and other stories correlated with that area lead one to think that. But no, I don't think that that's something that's on the table at this point in time that they would ever allow, based on how protective they are. And if you look at Lake Mead and stuff like that, how they've dropped that water level, I think that if that if the lake here was tapped, that it would have a similar fate to Lake Mead, and it would just get tapped until it was way down low, although it is it's over 1,000 feet deep. I don't know the exact depth, so it is a lot of water, but...
It is. Yeah, it's huge. Do you know it is actually the largest freshwater lake in the country behind the Great Lakes? Which I didn't know that. I didn't realize. I'd never really even... I mean, I kind of heard of Lake Tahoe, but I had no idea that it was that massive. And
no, we should totally
it was
check.
thousands of feet deep.
I know. I should look around the lake and see if there's
1,645 feet deep.
Oh, yep. Sounds...
Yeah.
Wow.
I should check to make sure there isn't a straw going to China or something, because...
Straw going to China.
Yeah.
Siphon off water.
Actually, they got that big old straw going to China off the Great Lakes here with these giant barges and stuff stealing our water.
Carrying big old bags full of water across the ocean.
Barges full of water, yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, water. Water is what it's going to be all about.
Where's China's desalinization? It is. It is. You know, here's a scary thing. If my dad's listening, he'll remember. Back in the 80s, I told him that. I told him that when the time comes, it's going to be water that we're fighting over. You know, not gold, not oil, not anything. Because without water, you can't live.
You're right.
You know, the synthetic life can, but biological life can't.
You're absolutely right. And I've thought about that since I was a teenager, you know what I mean?
It's a step ahead of
all
controlling
about water.
Food, because the food needs water to grow, so you control the people and the food supply. Yeah, you can tell that they're obviously doing it.
You can go, 3 weeks without food? Maybe? If you're lucky, but you can only go 3 days without water.
Yep. And 3 minutes without oxygen.
It's been a while before. It's been a while since I've gone more than... I don't think I've ever gone a day without water. That'd be pretty hard. Although it is neat that they are coming up with great ideas to pull water out of the air. That seems to make sense since... things like a air conditioner already does it, so we obviously do have the technology. It sounds pretty expensive at this point, but yeah, we got to think of something better. But dang, just the air is so messed up. There's just so much crap in the air. It's just thick. It's changing the electrical conductivity of the air. It's got to change our frequency that we're running on so much. You know, we're talking about grounding and stuff like that. Previously, I think it was another show actually, but. I find that all pretty interesting. We need to be connected to the energy so we can be the best we can be, but yet the energy is probably changing. Yeah, it's some crazy stuff.
I agree with that, Manny.
It's like, what are we tapping into?
Well, I think that's why we start to feel... I think we start to feel disconnected and all confused. I mean, I know I do.
Me too.
I get to a point where... I'm going to explode sometimes, and I can't even focus anymore. I can't look at this news anymore. I have nothing to say because all I want to do is scream and tell everyone to go away. You know what I mean? And I think that's on purpose, though. I think that's all by design.
I agree.
You know, they short-circuit you.
Yeah, and give you all the petroleum-based pharmaceuticals to throw you out. And I was just going to mention, when we were talking about the water, that most people out here don't even drink water at all throughout the day. In their daily lives, they're mostly sucking down like Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, and not even touching water. Doesn't even touch their lips. Most of these people, you know what I mean?
Water is gross.
I know a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's just, and this is the freaking plan, man. It's to destabilize us on a molecular level, you know, and then mess around with the frequencies in the atmosphere. It messes around with the frequencies of us, you know, touching the Earth and the Earth's frequencies. So, and the natural frequencies that are coming up, that they're trying to mess with all that. You're right.
And then just like the Bruce Lee water stuff. It's like, we're made of water, and then there's the Emoto water studies. So
that's right.
What they're doing with frequency is going to affect us in that way too. That's just, it's deep.
I love those Emoto studies. Oh my God.
I think Lady Pitbull got me to watch that movie when I went to visit her.
Yes.
Didn't you? The water movie. Yeah, that was freaking great.
Dude, when I use like ice in my coolers, I will when I'm done with the ice, I will talk to it and then set it free into the river back here. If I have any extra water, I send it down the river. I always throw it in the river. I'm so blessed to be right on a river. So I'm trying to change this river, you know what I mean, while I live here.
That's so awesome.
Set the water free.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
I saw Iota said too in chat, no water means no coffee. And you are absolutely right.
That's right. I love
okay.
Iota.
Yes, not okay is right.
Awesome.
So, I don't know. Did you guys see too? There was a clip that came out yesterday, the day before, about Colorado. Now I know Colorado's had problems for a few years. The snowpack has been way down. When I went on my trip, was it last year? Was it the year before? I don't know. They all bleed together now. And I went and visited Colorado. I took a whole tour down through the southern portion. Yeah, we didn't make it up to Denver, but the whole south portion down near where all those mountain ranges are. And I got to tell you, all of the ski resorts were up for sale and closed. And the reason for that is because they weren't getting any snow. And so even though this year Colorado seemed to have had a halfway decent winter from the snowpack perspective, their aquifers are way, way, way down. And also, I was down in Nevada. When I was visiting Heidi, we went to the Hoover Dam, and now you're seeing pictures of the Hoover Dam down 20 or 30 feet.
Really?
Big time. You should see there's the white line where the water usually sat, and I mean, it's huge. The water is so far down. You also have that oligoth aquifer that starts, T. Boone Pickens owned, I don't know if he owned the whole thing, but he owned access to it in Texas, up in the Panhandle there.
Yep.
But that runs under 6 states, and that thing is running dry. So there are some big, big, big issues going on over there right now.
Wow, I am really kind of glad that I live around these Great Lakes.
Well, that's what I always said, except that I think that is one of the reasons why it's being siphoned off and sold. Because now look at how you and I talked about when we were kids, anyone who had property right on one of the lakes, you were always worried about erosion, right?
That's
because
right.
the water was high. And in the wintertime, when you'd have the storms,
absolutely,
you'd lose feet. You'd lose feet of your property.
Yes.
And now the lakes are down feet low.
Yeah, we never, ever, ever. Back in the 80s, my family, bought a house right on Lake Michigan, and the water was coming in your back door. We were terrified of that. And now, we never, ever foresaw the impact of what was gonna come. We never saw this. We've got a football field of freaking beach now.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty important, and that reminds me of something that I hadn't heard prior to Jimmy mentioning it in the chat, which was that it was the Three Gorges Dam in China. They measured that it changed ever so slightly the rotation of the Earth by creating that different weight placement, and therefore, and they were also attributing some quakes to it, so that sounds like something similar could happen in the area if the Great Lakes, if they're changing how the weight is distributed, moving water down.
That's a very good point.
Well, you also have I don't remember who the YouTuber was way back when, but he used to talk about the underground tubes that would transfer water from the Arctic regions down into the aquifers, right? And there's this whole hydraulic system that's underground that's happening. So as ice is melting, as you're getting ice melt, you're getting larger volumes of water, which they think are what they are attributing some of these earthquakes to as well. You know, I mean, think about that. You have, when water is distributed and some is frozen and some is fresh, and all of a sudden you start having large amounts of frozen water melt. Now, isn't Arctic ice in Antarctica increasing, though, but all the ice up on the North Pole is melting?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
There's so many
It is
different
weird,
kinds
but think
of
about it. If you look
geoengineering.
at fluid dynamics, and I mean, that totally could change weight displacement, change the speed of plates moving. I mean, I think there's some crazy stuff going on. And some of it may be intentional, some not. You know, one of the things I saw a long time ago, when the very first time when they had a full open channel, this was last year or the year before, there was a satellite image of a full open channel right across the top of the planet, across the very tippy top North Pole. First time ever that we had seen as humans that it had all melted and opened up. And wasn't Russia and the United States freaking excited, because look at how much money that's going to save them in shipping lanes.
Right.
Shortcut.
Is that still supposedly open?
You know, I don't know if it's open or not, but I just saw that Russia and China struck some big oil deal, and they were talking about shipping across the Arctic.
You know, one
and
thing
that's
I'll
where all
say,
that mass methane expulsion's happening, too.
Hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. One thing that I would say, though, is that if you try to look on satellites, that's one place you don't get any satellite view, ever. It was on the poles, I've noticed. It's just like, why? I'm pretty sure they could show you. Why is it blocked out right at the pole? I don't know.
Something's up with that.
Well, who was just talking about yesterday or the day before? I heard there was a report that came out where it had been proven that NOAA had doctored the satellite images to something. What was that? Because I know I commented in chat. I was like, no way, they were totally busted.
Huh. Was that like on Suspicious Observers or something?
No, I don't listen to any of those guys. It was on our network somewhere.
Okay.
Someone was
don't
reading
know.
a story about it, and I don't remember what show it was, but it was sometime yesterday.
Wow.
They're definitely lying about a lot of other stuff, so I would expect that to be true. But yeah, even on the North American maps, it's in the northern regions of like northern Canada. It's pixelated out, and I don't know, it just makes me. You can kind of tell that they're obviously doing the same sort of geoengineering work up there, so it kind of makes me think that they're doing a lot of work up there.
They are, and they're not even. They don't even report half of what's going on. I mean, they block out like, the Soho sun, camera just broke down at this certain sunspot. There's no images coming out of it. You know what I mean? They do that crap all the time.
Yeah, I see both sides of it.
They
'cause
do,
on one
or
hand-
chunks of the data.
Yeah, like when
Sorry, go ahead.
ISON went perihelion around the sun, they stopped suddenly the freaking camera and the data stopped at this certain timestamp. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm amazed at what is visible on one hand, because they're red-handed in so much visibly on satellite and radar data. That I find it pretty amazing. What we have mentioned, like, I think Dutch census work is pretty good, but there's another one that's a little bit newer to me on YouTube, Weather War 101, that was recommended by someone else on the radio. I think that he's got a lot of really on-point information about if a person wants to know the specifics of watching the radar and just seeing visibly the signs that they're creating storms. Something that I saw him point out that I hadn't heard anyone else point out was you can see, if you look on radar a lot of times, on the better radars, there's very flat, distinct waves that explode from there. It's off moving, like, directly in front of it or at, like, a perpendicular angle. And I think he got it pretty right on in saying that there's different level air currents that are being moved in waves, and that creates rotation. And there, I could get into it a little bit. I'm obviously just learning about it, but I think he's getting it right on. And if a person is interested in that, there's so much to pay attention to nowadays.
What's the name of that again, Maddie? What's the name of
YouTube Weather War 101.
Cool. Because I'm addicted to the radar, and anomalies would be a good thing to learn to start to recognize on radar. That's for sure.
It's interesting, but again, it's like they're in control of the data, so I'm surprised at what you can see, but it wouldn't surprise me if sometimes you can tell that it's definitely blocked out for whatever reason. Obviously, it could be a malfunction.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure, just like the internet, at any time you could be not getting data anymore. So who knows? But I do think that he's got a lot of right-on stuff. Although even up to the last video you watched, I didn't finish the video actually, but he's talking about stuff off the coast of California, and he's saying that they're having trouble. I didn't finish the video, so I can't really speak on it too much, but he's not really. I didn't, at least as far as I got in the video, he's not bringing up Fukushima stuff, so
he's not.
Surprising. Only other person that I heard say anything about it, as I think I've said on there before, is Jeff Rentz and that Yoshi, I'm forgetting his last name, Yusamachi or something. Pardon butchering his name, but they actually said
Yoshi. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Yoshi Yusamachi, I don't know, sorry. But yeah, they actually both basically agreed that they're going to be using the weather modification that they obviously know how to use to they know where the radiation is, and they're going to probably block it out or try to keep it from raining in the country, and that's pretty much what I'm seeing. But I feel like I say the same thing every time I get on the air, but it does come back to that.
It does come back to that. How are they going to do that, plunging California and the whole freaking West Coast into a drought? You know what I mean? What's up with that? I mean, how are they going to stop the radiation by doing that? Wouldn't you think that... I don't know, it's just it's the whole thing is just absolutely mind-boggling insane.
Only thing that I can see as pretty much a clear fact is that you see what would appear to be storms build up, and they stop, like as if they're hitting a wall. So it seems pretty obvious to me. And just very strange actions of stationary and opposing moving clouds. I don't know. I feel like a broken record because I've been saying the same thing for... It's like all I feel like I talk about when I've called in, but I bring it up, so...
Well, the thing is you live out there and you're perfectly, you've got boots on the ground, so observation. So that's exactly what you should be doing, dude.
Well,
relaying all this stuff.
I guess whatever person is interested in, that's what they're going to be drawn to, and that's probably what if it's exciting to them or interesting, then they should probably pursue it. That's a sign that it's something that they should be doing. So, yeah, that was
absolutely
that's the thing I'm watching at least. But it is only one aspect. It's a big picture. A lot of things going on, and I do like looking at it from as broad a perspective as possible, trying to incorporate as many of the aspects of what's going on currently simultaneously as I can, because I don't know, and it just simplifies everything. Everything is obviously related.
That's for sure. It all is related. It's all completely interwoven. In fact, I think it directly correlates one with the rest of it. It's a tapestry, and then there's a big picture. Where'd Jules go?
Probably grabbing some more.
More coffee. That's good.
What's happening in Michigan today?
Let's see. I think it went up. I think it was 63 degrees. It's now 66 degrees. Yeah. And it's cloudy, and it's supposed to be raining here. So, other than that, like, we're getting a bumper crop of our crops are great. We're getting
going nuts.
Huh?
Must just be going nuts. All the plants.
It's been the most perfect summer. It's the most picture perfect summer in I have to say my whole freaking life. This is like yeah, dude. This is how summers, like, I remember as a kid. You know what I mean? I said that the other day.
Not me. I remember summer's hot. Like, it almost seems like we've been in a perpetual spring all summer. Like, we had a couple hot days, but it's typically by now we're doing a couple weeks of 90 plus, and the grass is brown. And it's not. Everything is green and lush, and just, it looks like we've been stuck in May, like, all summer. Rainy, 70 to mid 80s. I mean, nice weather, decent weather, but not typical weather. I mean, my peppers have done great. My tomatoes, not so much. But the trees are doing really nice.
Yeah, I mean, things are, everything's going good here. Peppers, tomatoes, I mean, you name it. It's beautiful here.
So I don't know, it makes you wonder. Last year I had really bad luck.
That's weird. So what is a tree? We know it's being controlled and stuff. There's no question of that. That's all too obvious. Just because we're getting it good here doesn't mean nothing.
It could mean that the jet stream was lower than where you are this year, and so you didn't get a good dose of aluminum like you did last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely true.
Radiation. Maybe the radiation was down this year up in your area.
Interesting. That damn well could be true.
Just a thought.
And everybody else is getting it.
Yeah. So, Maddie, are you is that still desert down there, or is that kind of a little oasis in that area with the lake?
It's a forest area.
Is
like
it?
A high forest. There's some areas out in the upper mountainous parts that are kind of above tree line and sort of barren with some mountains, but yeah, overall the Tahoe Basin is pretty forested, although they did a pretty good job of deforesting around here after the fire, and that's another thing that always gets me pretty worked up. Just there's some really beautiful trees, and they're just logging and then saying they're doing it for fire prevention. So, but another topic. But yeah, it's mainly forest. It's nice.
I wanted to find out, like Zori and Dane have been saying up near Mount Shasta, they're seeing some mass tree die-offs up that way, beetle infestations, mold growing. I just saw, I think it was it Rads in chat just said that they were seeing lots of molds growing on trees too. Are you seeing any of that down there? And you're obviously quite a bit lower in latitude.
I've been trying to pay attention to the
but
trees.
You're up high, right? You're in a mountainous... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's up. It's not super high elevation, but it's 6,000 at lake level, and peaks are like 10 and 11. But I've been trying to pay attention to trees. It's kind of hard to tell. Overall, I definitely say that you can tell, mainly around the roads, but yeah, I don't think it's as bad as other places, it seems, from what I hear, and I've definitely seen pictures, places in Colorado. I know I hear from family in the Midwest where it sounds a lot more noticeable, but that is slightly different kinds of trees, and so there's some variables, but I know they're being affected, and you can tell the soils and different plants, but overall, I can't really say it's too bad, but one other aspect is in some of the areas right around here where they've been doing the fire, tree removal, or logging it out, they are obviously going to cut down, if they're doing their job correctly, they're going to cut down the trees that are dying. So if they go and log an area out, it's hard to see, and it's going to take several more years for the other trees that are stronger to start dying. So that's one thing that I've thought of that would change perspective a little bit. A little harder to see, but in places where they haven't logged, it looks pretty good. How's it looking by, let's say, you, Jules?
I don't know. Everything is green, but I have been noticing a large die-off of pines, it seems. And if you remember back a few years ago when we first started researching all the radioactive fallout, that was something that had been well known since the days of Chernobyl. It was called rust, I think, where a lot of the pines absorb cesium, and the pines would die. And I am seeing, pines everywhere, from top to bottom of New York State. When you're driving, you're seeing lots of dead pines. Now, I don't know if that is due to cesium, or we also have all these borer beetles now that are all over the place. They actually don't allow you to take wood from one area of New York and bring it to another area of New York. You got to keep it localized because they don't want those beetles to spread. But I think the cat's out of the bag now. I'm pretty sure that those borer beetles have gotten all over New York State.
Man, that's some other crazy stuff.
And the borer beetles attack weak trees.
Exactly what I was going to say. That's one big diversion that it seems they're not going for the cause, as many of us have probably heard on the geoengineering show with Dane and stuff, that it's pretty obvious that the funguses and the beetles are just cleaning up the dead trees just like nature does, and it's an easy scapegoat, and they're not looking at the real causes, whether it be aluminum or radiation. It seems pretty obvious that they would obviously should be testing for it. The trees are dying, and they're just not testing, not saying anything.
They're keeping it real quiet.
Well, Dane even said that, a lot of the aluminum isn't even taken up into the trees because the trees' circulatory system shuts down when they start detecting the metals. He was talking about that this past Saturday.
Wow. I missed that. I was at a funeral.
Oh, right. Yeah, you weren't on Saturday. Actually, I in case you guys didn't notice, Wednesday nights now, after, let me see, 6 to 8. So after Josh's show, 8 to 9, I am re-airing Dane's show from the Saturday previous.
Oh,
so
that's
if you miss it
awesome.
on Saturday, it's, and you don't catch the archive or whatever. I know it's kind of hard to try and sit and listen to an archive for an hour, but if it's on air, it's easy because you can just turn it on, while you're doing your stuff.
Sure.
It is on Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern. I put it back.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Replays are awesome.
Yeah,
Rads is from Michigan, and he mentioned the mold. I'm seeing that is definitely something that I'm seeing is the mold.
What color?
I've been getting it on my vegetables and stuff the last couple years.
Ugh.
That I think it's called milky spore. Not on the vegetables, but on the leaves.
Oh.
But you will get it on the plant leaves, and then it kills the plant.
Yeah, my tomatoes all got it last year, the mold.
Ew. Well, I'm looking at blue mold and stuff. I sprayed this natural, like, spider repellent, you know, because I'm on the river. There's lots of spiders. And I sprayed it on, like, about a month ago, and it's all getting moldy. I got to clean it all up. It's kind of nasty.
Oh, that's no fun.
Yes.
Well, guess what, guys?
End of the show.
We've knocked another one out, and we didn't play any clips.
Hey!
Thank you, Maddie, for calling in to play clips. Yeah.
No, thank you both.
It's okay.
For rocking it every morning.
That's awesome, Maddie. You rock.
The conversation is great. And Maddie, thank you for the donations. You know, I got to tell you, it just makes me smile when I see from Maddie Clues.
Aww.
Thank
Maddie,
you very
rock.
much.
We love you.
Oh, it's nothing.
You know, just to know that you think about us makes my day.
Well, I'm just so
You
glad.
know, it's hard. I got to tell you, getting up every day and wanting to do this another day, I have to say, out of the 3 years I've been doing this stuff, it's harder now than it ever has been. Because I get my days where I just want to say, screw all this shit.
Yeah.
Screw it! I'm done now. I've done my time.
It's a job.
But
Hell of a
It's not-
I
job.
don't know.
It's not fun
I think
talking
it's
about
important.
bummer stuff. It is.
No,
It's
it
very
sure
important.
isn't.
And it should spread. I hope a lot of people. I find it very interesting, and it's a great source of information. So I think a lot of other people would too. But that other information is pretty tempting. It's quite appealing. There's bright flashes, frequent bright flashes, and naked people,
Wow.
and references to bad words
Yeah.
and drugs, and alcohol.
Yeah.
Very appealing. Hard to compete with that, I guess.
Well,
The
you
truth.
know, also when you start looking at those DARPA studies for brain control and inserting and removing memories and how they've discovered to do that with light flashes, it really makes you wonder about that glazed look you see with people watching the TV. I mean, they've always said that it was a way to, you know, change your brain frequency to take you from beta to alpha to whatever, theta, you know, so you're more suggestible.
Mhm.
But I really think that there's a lot more to that than we actually know. All right, guys, we got 10 seconds. So that was awesome. All right, Maddie, you have an awesome day. Thank you so much for calling in. Lady Pitbull, thank you for hosting the call.
Thank
I
you.
think I might be back. I don't know. I might be back tonight. I might not. We'll have to see. All right, guys, everyone stick around for Tuesday. Mr. Kevin Blanche is up next. And Tuesday night is an awesome night in radio. So hang around UCY all day today. I will be here. All right, everybody. You guys take care.
Peace.
Thanks.